Well, good morning and welcome back down to my allotment. Now, last weekend I had that horrible cold, so I didn't manage to visit my allotment. And that means this week I've got to make up for the time that I've missed out. I'm going to start just over here. Now, you might recall back in sort of November, December last year, I cut this tree down quite significantly and the prunings are still there. Unfortunately, haven't been able to get rid of these just yet. We're not allowed bonfires on this allotment, which makes it a little bit tricky. But instead, what I want to do today is just get rid of the rest of this tree. Now, to get rid of this remaining tree, what I'm hoping I can do is just cut this with a saw. This is going to take a while. Well, as you can see, I've cut that stump down to a much lower level. I've still left a bit of this stump because I've got my own way of dealing with tree stumps, and what that is I put a compost bin over the top of it. That helps block out any light, and then we add compost material and let that rot down inside this compost bin. And what that leads to is that tree stump will then rot away with minimal effort and makes it so much easier for it to remove because it's dead and it's rotted away. I've done this so many times in the past, it works, but it just takes a year or two before it is ready. And that's fine here because this is a good area to have a compost bin. Right, now on to the next bit. Now this year, these 3 corrugated iron beds are my potato beds. And in a few weeks' time, March the 17th is when I plant my potatoes, St. Patrick's Day. And that's only about 6 weeks away, give or take. So it's now time to just start preparing these potato beds. Now, the back end of last year, I actually sowed a green manure specifically designed for potatoes, and it has actually grown quite well. The couch grass, unfortunately, has taken over a little bit in a couple of these beds, but the green manure has also started to be affected by frost. So what I'm going to do now is just cut all this down and leave all that organic matter to rot down on top of the soil, adding humus into the soil. For this, I've got my lovely strimmer. So what you can see now is I've strimmed all that material down and I've added this black weed suppressing membrane on top. I've left all the trimmings on the ground, the idea being that the worms are going to come up and they're going to drag all that down into the soil, incorporating it into the soil to add humus or organic matter into that soil. But I've also added a black weed suppressor membrane, one to reduce the amount of weeds and hopefully kill off some of that couch grass before it comes back when I plant out the potatoes, but two, it's also just going to help warm the soil ready for planting out our potatoes. So it should, in theory, help us out in the future. Now, I personally actually have several different types of potatoes that I've got at home in the greenhouse, just chitting at the moment. I've got 4 varieties currently with more to follow, and I am growing the standard Maris Piper, King Edwards as a couple of my favourites, as well as some first earlies and some second early varieties, which is why I have dedicated quite a few beds to these particular crops. But I would love to know down in the comments what type of potatoes you are growing this year and why, and what is your favourite potatoes. Now, all I've got to do now is a bit of tidying up and weeding, which is a little bit boring for you. So I'm going to call this video an end for today. But please do subscribe and follow and all that jazz. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Cheers, guys. Take care.